Welcome to the Fantasy Zone. Get ready.
Welcome to the Fantasy Zone. Where's local? This isn't my Fantasy Zone. Great arcade game or greatest arcade game? This is Space Harrier. Released in the mid-80s, Space Harrier is one of those timeless SEGA classics that has pretty much seen it released on at least one major console every system cycle, including the Master System, Sega Saturn, PlayStation 3, and many more. The version we're watching here is actually from Shenmue 2 on the original Xbox. If you're not familiar with Space Harrier, it is basically an on-rails shooter somewhat similar to that of Star Fox. Players move around the screen, shooting anything that gets in their way. This may sound like a pretty standard setup until you actually get your hands on the controls. The original arcade machine used a controller called a flight stick. Basically, when you hold the stick slightly to the left, the main character will move left and then stop. Move to the left more, and he will move more to the left and then stop again. Once you reset the stick to the neutral position, he will reset to the middle of the screen. Essentially, Space Harrier maps the screen to the stick, so every point on the screen is mapped to a point on the stick itself. In most of the home console versions, this is mapped to the analog stick where the same rules apply. It is a bit funky at first with a small learning curve, but once you get the hang of it, you'll do great, just like me. Space Harrier has a fast and frantic pace, although it rarely feels completely unmanageable. To break up each level, there's a boss fight, and while the idea of each one is the same, spam bullets until it dies, they still require a strategic approach, thanks to the control system and the need to be directly in the side of the boss to shoot them. Honestly, the entire game is pretty much spam bullets until everything in front of you is dead, which can get a bit tiring on the hands without a turbo controller. But the evasive nature of the gameplay keeps the title both entertaining and challenging. Despite being released literally about 25 years ago, Space Harrier still looks absolutely fantastic with some colorful visuals and creative enemy designs. The areas do look a bit bland, although the simplistic design and combination of the obstacles running towards the screen work well for giving you a sense of speed. Oh, and you also can't forget that rockin' hair. Oh yeah, look at that hair. Make it black, local hair, local Harrier. Back on track, the visuals are rivaled by the title's fantastic soundtrack. While most of the soundtrack is good, the main theme is more than enough to carry the title, as it needs to be since it plays about 90% of the time. But it is one of those songs you can never get tired of. There are a lot of versions of Space Harrier out there. Most of the versions released in the last 10 years pretty much replicate the arcade experience. Often these versions will have different settings you can choose, like difficulty, lives, etc. The version I'm playing here is basically a straight port of the arcade title. There is one problem though. The Xbox doesn't accept quarters, at least from what I can tell. And there's no button to allow you to add credits. So you'll just have to man it up and beat the title with only a handful of lives. Space Harrier is extremely affordable, especially being easily available on some of today's top platforms. Probably the most value you can get is if you buy the steel that is the Sonic's Ultimate Collection on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 that retails for around $20 and includes Space Harrier along with tons of top tier pre-32-bit era SEGA titles. Space Harrier is a near-perfect arcade experience, mastering the easy-to-play, hard-to-master formula, and is well-deserving of a 9.8, with extremely minor issues. Considering it is on every current home consoles, and for an affordable price, this is an arcade classic you shouldn't forget.
Welcome to the fantasy zone. Get ready.